Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Activist News. I'm your host Daniel Walker, and today I wanted to talk about the Gaza Strip and how Israel are completely blockading the Palestinians, even by sea. Now, this might not sound new, but just bear with me because this is absolutely crazy, and it's a war crime. So bear with me and just let me explain this, okay? Now, as we can see here, Israel looks to build artificial island off the coast to replace shut airport. This is from July 31st, 2018, so 10 days ago. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu gave his backing for a plan to build an artificial island off the coast of Israel to replace a Tel Aviv airport set to be shut down. In a statement, the Prime Minister's office said Netanyahu gave a directive to advance a plan to build the artificial island with a new airport to provide for the acceleration growth in a number of tourists arriving in Israel. Yeah, so it's all for tourism for Israel, right? Let's read on. The SDE Dove Airport in northern Tel Aviv, also known as Dov Hoz, is set to close in January 2019. So, by January, this airport is going to be completely closed. Obviously, they need something to replace it. The airport, which sits on prime real estate, has mainly handled a limited schedule of domestic flights to Eilat and northern Israel. A government committee led by Netanyahu met this week to discuss the expected closure of the airport and preparations being made to transfer more domestic flights to Ben Gurion International Airport, Israel's main airport outside Tel Aviv. Other flights will also be diverted to Eilat in southern Israel, which Netanyahu called a national priority. A national priority. There are plans to build some 16,000 housing units and another 2,000 hotels at the site after the SDE Dove Airport is closed down. Keep in mind this is going to be an artificial island off the coast to replace shut airport. This is the Gaza Strip. This is Tel Aviv. The airport's here somewhere. This one's being closed down. Now, if you go to this article, the Al Jazeera Journal, which is a hard Zionist publication, it's confirmed here as well. Israel PM Netanyahu backs plan to build new airport on artificial island. This is from August 1st. And today is the 9th, so yeah, just over a week ago. Now, the actual report that came from the Prime Minister of Israel's office is here. You can see it on your screen. I will put this in the description. I'll put this link in the description if you wish to read it. Now, the first thing that needs to be said is if you go through these two articles that talk about the artificial island, they talk about it being on the Mediterranean coast, as it says right there. Now, that could be anywhere from here to here, because they have one in the north, but they're looking to replace the south one. So anywhere here, from Tel Aviv all the way down to the Egyptian border of Gaza, is where it could be. Now let's read this. This may or may not be connected. You can decide for yourself. And this article, I guess this plan was put on hold because this particular article comes from 2017, June 28, which is last year obviously. Israeli minister proposes building an artificial island off the coast of Gaza. Huh. How about that? Off the coast of Gaza.
Israel continues to be perceived as being responsible for the Gaza Strip and is, to a large extent, the only lifeline to it, even though it withdrew from the Strip over a decade ago. The artificial island, which will be internationally financed, built, and owned, will be constructed about 3 miles off the coast of Gaza. In order to ensure that security threats are addressed, Israel will remain in control of security in the sea around the island and of security inspection in the port.
Did you hear that? Of course that's going to be the case. I didn't want to play the whole video for the sake of censorship and copyright. I'll put this link in the description below if you want to watch the whole thing. As it says here, Israel's intelligence minister has released a video illustrating his plan for an artificial island off the coast of Gaza, which he says would help alleviate humanitarian suffering in the isolated enclave. You know, to alleviate the humanitarian suffering. I'm going to explain why this is bullshit in just a moment. The plan calls for an island to be built in the Mediterranean 3 miles off the coast of Gaza and connected to the strip by a long bridge. Now, the Gazans are allowed to go fishing up to 8 miles off their coast. Any more than that, they are shot and killed by the IDF. Yes, this happens a lot. Sometimes when they're only 6 miles off the coast, they get shot at and sometimes killed. So if this is going to be 2.5 miles off the coast, can people see how this is going to be a problem? They already suffer enough from a lack of food, which most of it comes from fishing. And a lot of these waters are polluted on purpose by Israel. The island, which would itself be 2.5 miles long, would have a port where passengers and cargo could be dropped and then transported to Gaza itself. It could potentially one day even have an airport. So this is a deal that's been in the pipeline for quite some time. Gaza has neither a shipping port nor an airport of its own, and its 2 million residents are almost entirely dependent supplies coming through the land border with Israel. Why is that? Why don't they have an airport? Why don't they have a shipping port? Well, they've tried to build it many times. They've been blown up, destroyed as a Hamas target. Okay, we have an Israeli blockade across this line here, the border which keeps getting bigger for Israel and smaller for the Palestinians. And of course we have the Rafah Egyptian-Gaza border blockade imposed by Israel as well. But now they want to build this ocean blockade, and the Israelis are going to use this as an opportunity to not only fully enclose this open-air prison that is the Gaza Strip, but exploit this area for their own purposes. Shipping ports, resources, fishing. Okay? So whether the plan of the Prime Minister's office released on the 30th of last month is connected in any way to this, it remains to be seen. But I'll keep reading on. The Artificial Island Initiative is aimed at providing an answer to a reality that is bad for the Palestinians and no good for Israel, the video narrator says. The project is the brainchild of Israel's intelligence minister, whose name is Israel Katz. We'll get back to him soon. He has pushed for the idea for 7 years, often facing skepticism from other ministers, but claims now that the project is gaining momentum. Okay, we'll just... there he is here. This is the Katz guy. I'll get back to him in a moment, but I just want to go right down to near the end of this, because they usually leave all the interesting stuff at the end. According to Mr. Katz, the island would cost $5 billion, which would be raised from international donors, and would take 5 years to construct. An international police force would have the responsibility for security on the island itself and would man a checkpoint in the bridge connecting it to Gaza. A section of the bridge could be lifted to disconnect the island from Gaza in the event of a security crisis. You know, like every time they have a ceasefire or there are peace talks, there's a security crisis because of Hamas, which causes all of this. And I mean, don't get me wrong, guys, nobody loves Hamas more than Israel because they are constantly used as an excuse to not grant Palestinians their basic human rights. I mean, they're completely blockading them. Look at that. They basically want access to this area so the Gazans can't go out there to catch fish, and only the Palestinians can use this when Israel sees fit. It's exploitation, and they're saying that it's good for the Palestinians. Anyway, right at the bottom of this article, always go to the bottom of these Israeli articles because that's usually where the juicy stuff is. Hamas have in the past opposed the idea, saying it was a way of making the Israeli blockade permanent. Some sort of agreement with Hamas would almost certainly be needed for the island idea to go ahead. Even though Hamas has agreed to relinquish all control over to the Palestinian Authority, they still to this day use Hamas as an excuse. This is Israel Katz, I hope I'm saying that name right. This is the man that praised Donald Trump for moving the American embassy in Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, saying it opens up a new chapter of peace for the Middle East, whatever that means. Give me a break. And this is him. He is a Likud neocon, hardline Zionist who is in the same party as Benjamin Netanyahu and is probably going to be the man to replace him. Israeli minister eyeing PM job seeks to form an anti-Iran axis with Saudi Arabia. Who would have thought? Maybe this is why they keep quiet about Yemen. The man who is also potentially going to replace Netanyahu as Prime Minister. Now, going on to here. Some of you may have heard of this. We know that, as I said before, Palestinian fishing vessels are being shot at for being 6 to 8 miles off. This is going to prevent them from even entering the water, basically. You know, it's... I hope they've got lots of beach rods, because that's what they're going to be limited to. Not that the fish go to the beach anyway, because of all the trash, rubbish and pollution that Israel put in the water, but anyway, let's read this, because it's all connected. It's all about Palestine, water, Israel, Greater Israel. Third Freedom Flotilla sets sail from Gaza to challenge illegal Israeli blockade. It is illegal, keep that in mind. The Third Freedom Flotilla set sail from Gaza into the Mediterranean on Sunday to challenge the decade-long Israeli blockade of the embattled enclave, a Palestinian NGO said. Quote, "We announced today the launch of the third cruise of the Freedom Boat," Bassam al-Manaraza, spokesperson of Gaza National Committee for the Breaking the Siege, told a news conference held in front of the Gaza port. He emphasized that the aim of the cruise is to show that the Palestinians have the rights to territorial waters off the shores of Gaza. And indeed they do. By international law, it's their water. The construction of the port linking Palestine to the world is guaranteed under international law. You know, the ones that Israel keep blowing up. He called the flotilla a peaceful maritime demonstration against Zionist terrorism. Okay, we know that they need to replace the airport here. We know they want to build an international artificial island here. Okay, in regards to the airport that's on the way that needs to be built by January, we know that it's not going to be in the north. All we do know is it's going to be on the Mediterranean coast, okay, in the south. Is it going to be here? Is it going to be here? Is it going to be here? We don't know, but it's going to affect the Palestinians. We're talking about war crimes, and I mean nobody seems to be talking about this, so I really felt the need to make this video. Now, in regard to this Freedom Flotilla, there is a pretty good article here by Mint News. I recommend this article. Yeah, it's the same topic, but I recommend this article be read by people who want a little bit more information because it goes into more detail. In fact, further down here somewhere, there is a full testimony of one of the people that was on board. As you can see here, Al-Awanda has been taken over by Israeli forces on 29th of July after it was surrounded by them and had its crew detained. The captain was severely beaten and describes how the soldiers were throwing Herman against the wall of the wheelhouse and punching his chest. Quote, "If we were Palestinians, however," she argues, "it would be much worse, with physical assaults and probably loss of lives. The situation is therefore dire for the Palestinians." And here's the full testimony here. It's quite lengthy, and it goes into some pretty impressive detail that's just, it's absolutely disgusting what the Israeli government is doing to these people. So if people want to get into this story a little bit deeper, check out this testimony, but for the sake of time I'm going to move on. I'll also put this link in the description below. Now, some of you might argue where it says here probably loss of lives is a stretch because, you know, they're stopping boats from exiting Gaza. Oh, and by the way, if you actually leave Gaza, you can never go back. You can never return. Once you leave your family, too bad. You can never re-enter Gaza ever again. Remember this? Back in 2010, Israeli commandos kill activists on flotilla bound for Gaza. They were trying to drop off basic humanitarian commodities like food and medical supplies. They told Israel that this was going to be the case. They let Israel know in advance that they were going to do this. Ankara calls incident unacceptable as 10 members of aid convoy are killed during the storming of a Turkish ship in international waters. Keep in mind that they were killed in international waters. This is a terrorist attack on peacekeepers, on people who were trying to bring first aid to the Gazans. So this is what happens when boats try to leave. This is what happens when boats try to enter. And to top it all off, we have this. Israel begins work on Gaza Sea barrier. This was written on the 6th of August 2018, so just a few days ago. I mean, have a look at it. Israel Defense Minister has published a video of an impenetrable sea barrier Israel is building to prevent attacks from Gaza, the territory ruled by militant group Hamas. The barrier, expected to be completed by the end of the year, will consist of 3 layers that stretch out into the Mediterranean Sea from the southern Israeli community of Zikim. The first layer will sit below the waterline and will be topped with a heavy stone wall and barbed wire. An additional fence will surround the large and imposing sea blockade. Israel Defense Minister described the barrier as an impenetrable breakwater. They're constantly using Hamas as an excuse. Always. This is why I say Israel love Hamas. Whether Hamas are legit or not. You know, well, first of all, they were diplomatically elected in. People need to keep that in mind. Whether they're legit or not, there's a lot of people who are desperate in Palestine. They're very proud people, the Palestinians. They have this huge sense of injustice that is ingrained in their genes now. This has been ongoing for more than 50 years. I ask that you try to get this video out there. Share it on your favourite social media platform. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below, because I think this is just outrageous. And yeah, that's my video for today, folks. If you want to support me, Patreon link is in the description below, and if you want to follow me on Twitter, I'll chuck that link in there too. And that's it from me, folks. Thanks for watching. Take care.